Hi, everybody. So, today I'd like to talk a little bit about astrology, spirituality, and fasting. And we see a lot of people posting like day 5 of my water fast, and everybody wants to tell you their experience. And of course, that I love this because collectively social media is helping people to share concepts that are accelerating our well-being in many ways. Um, but I think that sometimes we forget about the spiritual principles behind something. And I would not say I'm an expert in this, but I have been fasting I'm doing what we call austerities, tapas, for consciously for 18 years now. And I just thought I'd be one of those people telling you my story today. But really, yesterday, astrologically, was a very important day for fasting in Vedic cosmology. So I wanted to share a little bit about this because I think that when people are just doing it, I think autophagy, if you don't know about it, it's a revelation for these times, helping us to understand how, when we go into fasting mode, that our body resets. And this has got the linked to ketosis as well, and ketogenic diets. So all of these things of the health benefits of fasting are, unsurpassable in many ways. But also fasting for some people with certain metabolisms or certain health issues is not a great thing. And we all have to do it in a way that works for us at a certain time, with certain influences in our life, and with certain health conditions, which could be changing over time. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this, maybe something you don't know about the spiritual part of fasting, because yeah, I get a lot out of it. So I thought I'd share with you today a little. And actually, I just broke a fast. So I might be a little bit high and a bit crazy today. Who knows? Anyway, we know that Muslims have Ramadan every year. So, and this is seen as a way of becoming more connected to the divine. Okay. And this is something that I can really show you and chart across different traditions. I worked for many years working with plant medicines and having to do special dietas, sometimes fasting for prolonged periods of time. Sometimes we're not allowed any food for several days. We're only allowed a tiny half cup of a certain tea before certain medicines. Others, we have very restricted diets, no salt, no oil, very kind of mono diets for very prolonged periods of time. And there's similar principles behind these ethoses. I don't know if that's a word, that are here for something for us to pick from. Because when I was doing work in, say, the Amazon, a lot of the time they would say there would be different reasons people would say you would have a dieta. And I studied this a lot, okay, because I worked with many, many different tribes. And in some ways, people were eating what's in their ecosystem around them. But also, one of the things is that it's very similar to, say, in Buddhist monastic traditions, where you're not really seeking flavor. Our senses are not like thinking, oh, I wonder what I'm having for my dinner. It's going to be yummy. Okay. And you know that thing when we're doing a meditation, we start thinking about what we're going to buy in the shops. It's there's something about stilling the mind through simplifying the act of eating, okay, and taking away from flavor and just having basic sustenance. And of course, within many plant medicine traditions, there will also be certain reasons why certain foods would be seen as really harmful. And I've been told some very big stories of people who maybe broke the diet with something very strong. I have also seen people from other cultures working with the same plants and eating red meat the day before and the day after. Okay. So, from my journeys with working with plant medicine with many, many different tribes, anything that Westerners were telling you was the absolute gospel was usually copied and pasted from something, but you could actually see another tribe doing something totally different. But there was always something about abstaining. It's also going light on your digestive system. And of course, if we're ingesting certain plants, there can be certain chemical compounds made from the mixing of one thing with another, and this can create a destabilization of the mind or exacerbation of certain symptoms or worse. Okay. So what was interesting for me was this concept of, and I love cooking and food, okay? So this concept of kind of weaning ourselves off this sense-based desire around tasty food. And actually, for years now, from working in things like retreat centers and working cooking food a lot, it really helped me to desensitize from just savoring food and cooking and thinking about it so much. And I now really don't plan it, okay? And I have over the years as well, since about 18 years ago, I have gone like gluten free, mostly dairy free, except I'm in India. I don't, I might eat like a little bit of chicken very occasionally. I don't eat refined sugar, all of those things. And so I also became a conscious eater. I first went into macrobiotic food and I had a long history of veganism and vegetarianism. Okay, so food and what we eat is very important, but in the West, we if you go to a developing country and see what's in the shop, and then you go to London or some or Vienna or somewhere, and you just see these shelves of everything. It's a very, very crazy sort of seesaw of not so much and everything you could possibly imagine, but usually overprocessed in the West. And so we actually tantalize ourselves in the West. In other countries, it's just like you just if you've got rice today, you're very lucky, okay? And so we become destabilized of mind when we're thinking too much about what's the next meal, what am I going to cook? How yummy, yummy, yummy. And therefore it becomes desire led. So when we're fasting, in many of the traditions, we're really taking away from this whole concept of preparing a meal and thinking about the taste. And there are also diets like sattvic diets where we are eating mostly what we would say higher vibration foods to help us do things like meditation. And I have been adhering a lot to fasting here in India, where I am at the moment. And and going to a lot of temples and things, and I really felt it helped. And so I generally don't eat onions and garlic and things like that. I actually really like garlic, but and sometimes I'll eat it because in some traditions I work with, we are able to transmute these things. It's not about fixating on, oh, you put like a little piece of onion in my food, I'm going to go to hell. That's not tantric either. We should be able to navigate with anything, really. But for certain things, it's really good to eliminate like agitating foods or foods that might make us more sexually aroused or these sorts of things or things that are too tasty. Okay. And this leads into what I really want to talk about today, which is astrological fasting. And so I work with three forms of astrology quite deeply. And in Vedic astrology, every 2 weeks, there's a day where it's ideal to fast or at least to restrict our diet. And I have been keeping this for quite some time. And it is said that if you adhere to that, the day after, you always get a blessing. And I can tell you that wow, when I do this, I was starting, when I started doing this, I was having these really amazing experiences the day after, like a blessing, okay? Some gift that I would not have predicted and very subtle but profound. And yesterday, it was one of those days, but it was also a day in the year in Vedic astrology that's seen as the super fasting day to clear a lot of karma. And there are kind of two ways of calculating it. So they said, if you're really hardcore, go for 2 days. And if you're maybe more of a layperson, just do it on this day, which was yesterday. So I kind of did in between, okay? And um, and I wasn't doing the full fast of just no water, no anything, but I just really ate fruit and a little bit of potato, okay? And I have been doing this regularly, and you just go into this more pure state of mind. But yesterday, it had a connection to Vishnu. And I also had been working with a Vishnu mantra for about a year. And the day before had been kind of agitated, like things were coming to the surface. And actually, at night, just I couldn't get to sleep because some really crazy intense intense energy was coming through me. It was like the ripening of karma. It was very uncomfortable, very intense, almost making me cry. And I had to just be like, okay, I'm just going to still the mind and I'm going to just be stable with this. And I did that and was able to get to sleep eventually. And then I woke up the next day and there was such a purity in everything. It was so zen. And Vishnu is all about peace and preservation. And I just realized it was a day to just, watch spiritual videos, read spiritual books, be very slow. And it was also a day where anything where you may have had some conflict or animosity, past karmas, there was an opportunity for them to be purified. And it was interesting that as I went through that strange portal the night before, when I woke up, I had a clarity, right? Something I'd been feeling for a while, like a change I have to make. And I was shown now you have to start to make this change. And it's about what we're offering within our school and my responsibilities. And there's something else that the universe is wanting from me. And it just means that I have to close down something a little bit more in terms of where I give my time. And that going through that deep purification, because I was already fasting when that all happened. So going through that purification, and then the next day to already have been in the sattvic energy where I was giving something up. And this is one of the big processes, especially around spiritual and astrological fasting, is that you're really giving a message to the divine. I'm giving something up because I want to bow to you. And this is why, even if you're not a hardcore, like, I'm not going to drink or eat anything, and you just say, well, normally I eat hamburgers and chips, so I'm just going to have fruit and something else today, right? That's already the divine is like, that's really good. Okay. So it's about your intention and keeping to the intention and not breaking it. And of course, there's always a point in time where I'm thinking, oh, I wonder where I'm going to go to lunch in 2 weeks, or I do start to think about food, but I don't eat it. And it's about the willpower. And then it's about, and when you maintain the right timing with it, again, you're saying, I'm really keeping to the plan. I am not going to eat the naughty stuff. I'm just going to make everything simple. And actually, when I eat the simple food on those days, it tastes so pure. And I'm like, I don't need anything else. Okay, this is lovely. Okay. And so it makes us cherish what we've got and be grateful for it. But also, that act of sacrifice is something that in the West we're very averse to. Everybody just wants comfort and nice stuff. And it's really not very hard to fast in these astrological ways because we can do it every 2 weeks. And if you research it, we do it on a day called Ekadashi, which is the 11th day of any waxing or waning moon. And what's also amazing is you don't eat foods that are hard to digest. So the body is lighter. You're also helping your metabolism. Your body is thanking you. Your digestive system is thanking you. You feel like clearer and lighter. And so this is a really good way for people who don't want to do like this sort of influencer 6-day water fasting thing, is that you make your sacrifice and you do it mindfully. And of course, there are certain things in certain fasting periods. There are things like when we are working with Mahashivatri. So, for instance, recently when I was in India, there was an Ekadashi and there was Mahashivatri. So I was fasting actually a lot for many days. And then after that, I got like sick and I was in another purification. I'd had one a week before. So I had like 10 days where I hardly ate. But it was great because I was in a very spiritual area. And there were some really big blessings came to me from those travels, on a spiritual level for me that I can tell. And so anytime this is something that we want to talk about more, is this concept of austerities, sacrifices. And this is a really nice way to start, especially if not just doing it to look good or just for physical benefit, it will bring those. But when you're doing it for spiritual benefit, it's purifying karma. And so many people are stuck because if everything is so self-centered. And so people are looping. And actually, a really great way to start to change your programming is to do things like this. And the universe really affords you the right to do it. Like I realized yesterday, oh, my work day is going to change. And so I just changed everything around. And then it was like I was in peace in such a pure way. and got so many subtle, sometimes the things that we need to work on in this life are more subtle than we give ourselves time to recognize. And people are always waiting for this big sort of light bulb moment, but actually it's usually the subtlety of a little bit of fasting, stilling the mind, just seeing things from a slightly different vantage point. Then it's like the shift comes. You know, like if we're fully traumatized because something's so epic, we don't really process it. So I find I have kept this thing for about a year. I've been doing fasting at really important junctures for 18 years, and for certain rituals or karmic benefits, remedies, retreats, all of these things. But now I do it twice a month, and it's like I get a little top up every time. And of course, sometimes I'm traveling, but I've managed to be able to find a way that I can actually do it without cheating. And and my being just knows it wants to stick to this. And it's funny. I mean, I'll even tell you that the next time, what it looks like on the calendar is like it's right when I'm traveling. So I'm going to be on a plane. I tried to see what the closest food I could get would be, and I said, what will I carry with me? I'm going to have to travel across London. And then I resurveyed the times, and it's happening not exactly when I'm traveling. And I'm like, good, I can plan this because I can go to a shop where I can just get some really good fruit and all of these things. And I just really want to say the level of peace and tranquility because of doing it on the special day, it gave me just such conviction in some of the pathway that's coming that I'm on, and the just to step to the purity of that. And yeah, it's like each time we make a spiritual decision in our lives, the whole world of our ancestors, our guides are celebrating. And these little decisions we make, I could just feel like this kind of fanfare of yay. And I have to implement that. And actually, it's about implementing something with extreme subtlety. But being in that field of grace yesterday, on this more potent day to do it, it was just, we could always tap into that. But it's so true when they say there are certain days where you have a window to purify so much. It also said, if you're looping on something, because often we have a karma that we're kind of working through. So is it an old relationship, something that's not ended the way we possibly liked, or something we haven't quite finished processing in our mind? So we can't keep going back to it. So days like those are really important because you get that spiritual kick that moves through and purifies the rest of the karma because you are actually doing something different with your digestive fire. You're devoting it also to the divine. You're not just busy like digesting hamburgers, right? So this is what's really important. So you make that dedication and you're actually purifying more. So finally, what I want to say is that after 18 years of like sacrificing not having a home, sacrificing having a home, many things, many different types of austerities. And I want to say something here and now. I am still a junior compared to these people who sit, drinking nettle tea for 40 days in a freezing cave. I am like a crap Western version of all of this, but I am here to bridge to help you to understand how to safely come into these things. And I think that after 18 years of doing this and overseeing plant medicine diets, retreats, cooking spiritual diets for many people, that we are now going to offer a little baby course to help you. And we'll help you to understand the alignment of the astrology so that you can start to have these little windows and also to understand other ways that we do what we call tapasya, working with tapas. And it's is working with austerities. And this is this thing that people in the West, unless they've got certain hallmarks or drive, most people are avoiding this. And at any given point, we might have the karma that it's time, our time to do austerities. And some of us have hallmarks of austerities within our chart that it's something within our spiritual growth that's helpful for us to do. So I do have that marker that, austerities are something for me to do and I should enjoy doing them. Okay, but I still have to say I'm still like a baby compared to these people who have these amazingly deep austere practices. And there will be different masters will tell you. Some people will say too much austerity is actually going to close down the spiritual channels. And I think that we in the West have to understand sacrifice better, and we have to learn to do it. And sometimes, I can remember Khenpo Rinpoche, my Kalachakra Tantra master, saying, the people who sit, for 50 years with their hand like this above their head, he said that I don't really get that. But that person probably has a lot of austerity in their chart, okay? And something I can tell you from being here in India, and I really want to bow down to all the amazing teachers and priests and masters and temple guardians that I've seen and met in this journey, is that just seeing the level of devotion that people really, from the minute they get up, everything is hard work in service to the divine. And all these temple guardians. And this is something I really want to say is, I know that we're in a time of changing, coming into more masculine feminine balance in the planet, but here in India, a lot of those people are men. And I really want a presence, that devotion of that non-stop. It's quite rigid sometimes, but they are unfaltering in the depth of sacrifice that they make. And I really want to presence the masculine for that. And all those men from all those lineages, like I think we are changing in lineages are really important, but sometimes they're too tight for people in the West or for people in female bodies. But I really want to honor all those men that I've seen who are just, standing all day in the heat, giving puja to people and, who've stepped into their Brahmin status or monastic role, um, full commitment for this life. And so, fasting for a few hours once every 2 weeks, it's not much to ask, is it? But it's really important gateway, I think, for people in the West. And when you start to feel what giving up something feels like, you will start to activate a deeper connection to the divine. And also you'll purify a lot of karma. So if you're interested, we're going to do this little baby journey with it. It's also linked to a retreat we're offering, but a lot of people won't have the conditions to come to the retreat, but this year. But we thought we'd open up this journey around tapas and austerity so that people can start to deepen their devotional path. And we do this so that people can have higher, better conditions to be at one with the divine. Because I see so many people who have so much chaos in their lives, and I was one of those people, but I always knew I'd get there in the end. And I had to try things out and get the codes and understand the formulas. And and I am so grateful for for the guidance to sacrifice certain things over this last 18 years, particularly because I am very grateful for the life that I lead. I spend most of my time in nature, um, this year mostly in mountains. I am allowed to, my job in the world is devotional. I do it through full connection and guidance to my guides and the divine. I meet amazing people. I don't have to meet too many people anymore, which is good for my energy. And I learn. I'm allowed to sit learning and studying astrology and doing these rituals whenever I need and like. And that was a long journey to that reclamation of time, to purify my karma of my chaos and my drama. Okay. And we can all do this, but if you don't make the effort, the universe is waiting for you, but you have to make these little steps. So, if any of this interests you, we are around. We're going to start the course, I think, late May. It'll be about 6 weeks long. Something like that, maybe even early May. So get in touch. It's going to be really affordable and quite succinct to start off, but a really good way to safely enter into all of this. And yeah, it is time. I feel I suddenly saw the guys were like, you've been doing this 18 years, really, really deeply as a baby. Okay, as a Western baby, you've been doing this very deeply because I have given my life to it. But I'm still nowhere compared to these people who are like 24/7 tunnel vision, just that. Okay. So from my slightly Western bridge state, I understand the distractions, the way we live in the West. And if that can help you, then I'm here to share with you. Okay? So gracias, gracias, gracias for listening. And please get in touch if you'd like to know more. Ciao, ciao.